All right, welcome back. More of the Counter Happer Show. You're on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. Nebraska is 5-5 in the league in their 20 non-conference games. Creighton is 7-3 in the league out of their 20 non-conference games. So we are halfway through the conference slate. We are going into February. It's basically the witching hour of college basketball, except for it's an entire month.
Wow, what if the witching hour lasts a whole month?
That's college basketball. Grab your nitroglycerin pills, as John Rothstein would say. It's about to get wacky up in here. And both of our local basketball teams are currently either comfortably on the right side of there's no bubble in Creighton's case, with Nebraska's most recent loss to Maryland, this is life as the 40th best team in the country back to being squarely on the bubble. It's pretty much where Nebraska is right now. So I thought we'd take a look. Josh, I have given you some visual aids.
I'm ready.
It is time for, now I usually do this on Tuesdays, but we needed something to talk about today. So here we go. Team Sheet Wednesdays. Pop them up there. These come from our friends at Warren Nolan. Let's look at let's do the Cornhuskers first.
All right, there we go.
There's the Huskers with their net ranking in the top left corner. If you're watching along with us on YouTube, and you could see this quad by quad here. I wish we could have like a pointer, like a laser pointer that goes over this. You can see it quad by quad. So at the moment, now. K-State's going to be right on that edge. Minnesota is going to be right on that edge. Rutgers right on that edge. Like, what's a quad 2? What's a quad 3? And, you can say at the end of the year, hey, we're this, and this, and quad 1 plus quad 2, and we're this, and this, and 3 and 4. Like, there is some gray area, right? It's not like if Indiana missed quad 3 to quad 2 by a ranking, there will be some nuance that is thrown into here. But this is what we have at the moment. So Nebraska 2-3 in quad 1, 3-3 in quad 2, and then undefeated 10-0 in quads 3 and 4. What you'll notice is, as well, if you look at some of the other metrics here, they've fallen in the results-based metrics, which is the KPI and the strength of record, the predictive metrics, and the KenPom and the BPI and the
your little KenPom thing.
The Sagarin's not ready yet, I guess.
Wow.
But the strength of schedule. This is one of the things that they'll look at the end of the year, specifically non-con strength of schedule. If you were a bubble team, Nebraska 3-2-4. You can't do anything about that at this point. I mean, it's going to move based on what K-State does. It's going to move a little bit based on what, But if you look on KenPom right now at Nebraska's non-con, here's what they did. 347 Lindenwood, 342 Florida A&M. I mean, those are two of the worst 15 teams in the country that they played right off the bat. 323 South Carolina State. That's another bottom 25 team in the country. Cal State Fullerton, North Dakota, both in the 200s. Stony Brook and Ryder end up being in the 200s. Oregon State got a win the other night against, what was it? They beat Arizona the other day. That was impressive over the weekend. Duquesne is, a pretty decent one. And then you were kind of hanging your non-conference hopes on a home game against Creighton, which is a good bet. It's a home game, right? Winning that would have been nice for them, but they didn't come close.
They beat them last year.
And they beat them last year. And then K-State on the road, which you played, well enough in that you won that game, and now you're hoping that K-State can sort of hold up their end of the bargain. And that was it. That was it in the non-con for Nebraska. So this is always a little bit of a wobbly kind of proposition, right? It's not standing on the most solid of ground. And then when you include the Big Ten and the opportunities that the league gives you this year, you know that it's fewer and further between. Now, as we said before, they've already accomplished a lot. They've beaten Purdue. Nobody's going to take that away from you. That's a 1 seed. You beat a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament on your home floor. Bang. seal it up. It's a quad 1 win, no matter if you're on, if you're on the home floor, like you double home floor, whatever that means. That is a home win against a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Michigan State's metrics still look good. That win you could look back on and say that was a big one. Northwestern is going to be, in that same range as Nebraska. That's a peer. Ohio State is hanging on for dear life. So for those of, we talked about what needs to happen going forward for Nebraska at 5-5 in the league right now. And what it really comes down to, we'll talk about it more tomorrow. Tomorrow's a really big game. There's just not that many opportunities left. Tomorrow is a big game. And if we've already agreed and everybody's sort of together agreed on this, Nebraska's a better team at home. They're a different team at home. They have a chance to beat anybody at home. We've seen it. They beat Purdue. Your remaining home schedule is Wisconsin, which will obviously do you a ton. Michigan, which will do you nothing for a home win. Penn State, which will do you nothing for a home win. And Rutgers, which will do you nothing for a home win other than having the optics of beating them at home and losing to them on the road, splitting that series, right? If you get swept by Rutgers, that's a problem. So Nebraska tomorrow is such a huge game, but they cannot lose a home game after tomorrow. They straight up cannot lose a home game after tomorrow. That will kill you. That will murder you.
Far be it from me to defend Nebraska basketball, but I'm thinking of watching games. They throw that graphic up there, quality wins. Obviously, Purdue will be on there. Michigan State will be on there.
K-State, Northwestern,
K-State,
Indiana might hang on.
The bad losses column would it be empty? I mean, at the time, we kind of thought at Rutgers was a bad loss, but really was more like the way.
Yeah, I mean, Nebraska has one loss at home.
Yeah.
This year. And where the bad losses category gets populated is when you lose games at home.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Don't lose games at home, right? I'm telling you this with certainty. Nebraska cannot lose a home game after tomorrow. Tomorrow, great opportunity for them. A win would propel them, and it would be another one that goes into your back pocket. A loss doesn't murder you. After tomorrow, a loss at home murders you. Murder, Josh.
Murder.
Michigan, Penn
I'll
State.
Be dressed like the Grim Reaper.
Rutgers and Minnesota.
I'm coming.
You can't lose You can't lose any of those games at home. And if you're losing tomorrow, then you got to pick one or two up on the road. 10-10 in the league, looking the way it's looking right now. Let's say they do lose tomorrow, and then they do lose their remaining. Or they do win their remaining 4 home games after that. That puts you with 2 home losses all year to Creighton and Wisconsin. And that gets you to below 500 in the league. That means you're going to have to at least pick one up just to go 500. Just to do what you want to do, right? And so they'll have to. Illinois is another big challenge. Winning on the road at Northwestern. Ohio State is a team you've already beat. Indiana is a team that you've already beat. Michigan is a team that you already will have beaten at the time to finish out the regular season. So they'll have to do it. They can't just lose out on the road and win out at home. Right? So
love a challenge.
Would love to go +1. If you can go +1, tomorrow is a big step toward that. And then you only need one road win after that. And I know we shouldn't be giving Nebraska wins, but I think the conference has kind of separated itself a little bit. Not that they're capable of not losing those games, They certainly are, those home games. But that's sort of the outlook for Nebraska. And that, you played even. It gets you to 20-11, 10-10 in the league. And in that case, I wouldn't feel very good about Nebraska just straight up on the resume perspective as it stands. They'd have to probably do a little bit of damage in Minneapolis, where the conference tournament is this year.
People forget.
I wouldn't feel very good about. I wouldn't feel safe with that. You pick up Wisconsin tomorrow, and you pick up a road win, and it's 12-8 instead of 10-10. Safe, like the old guy in Mr. Deeds. Safe.
percentage chance they're in the tournament? As it stands today, it obviously changes day to day. Or 1 out of 10, or
like, are you saying if the season ended today, or like my projection of their last 10? I think you're asking my projection.
Great follow-up question. Yes, projection, I think is what I'm asking.
I mean, they're like dead 50-50 right now. Okay. Like if it ends today, they're in Dayton. If it ends today, they're like barely in.
Okay.
We'll know a lot more tomorrow, I think. You look in the bracket matrix right now. Big Red is a bracket matrix 10 seed. They appear in 80 out of the 86 brackets that bracket matrix is tracking at the moment. I don't feel like hunting down all of the 6 people that don't have Nebraska in the tournament, mostly because I can't fault them for not having them in the tournament at the moment. They're a dead-on bubble team at this very moment. Average seed 9.78 at this very moment. So, really don't want to get into the stupid conversation about how winning a play-in game doesn't count in the NCAA tournament. I just really love to avoid that at all costs.
Please.
Win some road games. Help me.
We have fun with this team, but that will not be a fun
conversation would break my sports radio brain.
I don't want to have it. I don't want to ask that question.
Somebody asked on YouTube, Travis, what does Connor's little KenPom thingy say? 53 at the moment on KenPom. KenPom actually projects Nebraska at 20-11, 10-10.
Oh, okay.
So they project them to lose each of their next 3. And I think, aside from the resume part of this conversation, Josh, and then we get into like the psychological stuff, really don't want to see them lose their next 3 games because I'm afraid about what is said at that point.
Takes will be had.
Don't want to see Nebraska at 5-8 and 15-9.
Ooh.
I don't want that. It's very possible. It is a shot that is in the bag, but I do not want to see it.
Don't do that. Don't do that. People like me will have takes.
Well, it's not just the people having takes too. I am also worried about the team.
Oh,
I'm also worried about the team and what happens to them if they lose 4 Big Ten games in a row. I don't want to see that.
But they beat Purdue that one day.
I don't want to address that. All right, that is Nebraska. On to the Blue Jays. All right, so we're not talking about the bubble with Creighton here, as you can take a look at their team sheet on our stream on YouTube, or conveniently located 1620thezone.com. 3-3 in quad 1. Take a look at that Alabama win. Wins in December don't usually get you much, especially wins in December at home. But that one's going to hold up nice. The metrics love the Tide. So that'll be a stock quad 1. You will get a chance at UConn down the stretch.
Hell in a Cell.
Hell in a Cell round 2 right here in Omaha. And outside of that, I mean, St. John's has the potential. Marquette has the potential. St. John's is on the road, so that'll be a quad 1 opportunity for Creighton. But home games, you're looking at UConn and Marquette. So Creighton will have probably still a handful more quad 1 opportunities to just enhance their resume. But with that, I mean, with them, you're not really like, we're thinking about the difference between a 5 and a 3 seed kind of at this point. So if you continue to look up and down their team sheet, 3-3, 4-2 in quad 2. The losses coming. That UNLV one is a little stinky. People are not going to like that. So you're going to have to do some other stuff. And that Villanova home loss is getting stinkier by the day. They are kind of not good, Josh.
Kind of caught in a tailspin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been vocal about Mr. Neptune over there. I don't think he's very good. It's amazing to me that they have so much talent and, can't produce a consistent basketball team. With that being said, they have Creighton's number. There's no other way to say it. They might get swept by Villanova. They might get swept by Villanova, and that won't be good. So keep that in mind. And then undefeated in 3 and 4. Non-con strength of the schedule 81. That checks out. and, good on the metrics, obviously, and everything. The bracket matrix currently has the Blue Jays as a 3 seed with an average seeding of 3.29. I see them as low as a 5 and as high as a 3. Now, for Creighton, upcoming, they get Butler Friday. Providence and Xavier are 2 quad 1 opportunities back to back on the road. Providence has had their ups and downs, obviously still trying to get used to life without Bryce Hopkins, and Xavier gave Creighton a really good run at home last week and then got absolutely wrecked by UConn the other night. I mean, they got smoked. Now, a lot of teams are going to get smoked by UConn. So Xavier is good, but they might not have enough to keep it on track. I like that Creighton, maybe I'd rather have Creighton get them a little bit later down the line on the road after things have maybe spiraled a little bit for them. We'll see. Georgetown won't do anything for you. Butler on the road will help. UConn at home, obviously, that's a big game. I think for Creighton, they're obviously, the tournament seeding is going to land where the tournament seeding does. I think they're at the very most there. At the very highest, I think they're at 3. At the lowest, I mean, they could lose 3 or 4, out of these next 10.
I don't think 5's out of the question.
I don't think
them falling that far.
I don't think 5's out of the question of them losing, which would get them to. I mean, they'd still be 20-10 at that point, but they could be like a 6 seed, But you're going to be defined by what you do against UConn. But for the Jays, like I said, the seeding is going to end up where they end up. I think they're still going to try and make a run here at the Big East Championship. I mean, all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, oh my God, UConn's 8-1. We still have a game with them at home, so we get to figure that out on the floor. Marquette's 7-3, same as you. Still have a game with them on your home floor that Frank Caliendo will be at.
That's right.
And
say hi to him.
It's
my bud.
You have to go to St. John's. You still play Seton Hall at home. Like, you play all the top contenders at home. You get a chance to give them one. So like, they're not dead for that league title. And I sure as hell didn't think I'd be saying that 2 weeks ago. And you're heading into a portion of your schedule that is pretty manageable. So I don't know. There's still a lot to figure out with Creighton, but obviously they're an NCAA tournament team. We were talking before about their ceiling. I just think it's pretty easy to default to. I think it would be a success to get to the second weekend, and it would kind of be a failure to miss the second weekend.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
Right? Not that they can't
mm-hmm.
miss the second weekend, but like for what they've shown, for what their ceiling is perceived to be, for what their seed's going to be in the NCAA tournament, I think it would stink if they didn't get into the second weekend. With that being said, they might walk into the NCAA tournament with a 6 seed and have to wear a dark jersey in the second game. Didn't have to do that last year, but here we are.
Now, I've looked at the bracketology that was released yesterday.
Yes. What have you found?
I have found that Nebraska is in the last 4 in section.
Mm-hmm.
They would be headed to Dayton.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
The winner would play a Florida Atlantic team that, I don't know if you remember, went to the Final Four last year.
I do.
First 4 out, Villanova's on that line. Next 4 out, Butler's on that line. They're coming to town Friday. Creighton is a 3 seed right now, headed to Memphis. In a bracket, they would play Morehead State in the first round. They'd get the Oklahoma-Indiana State winner in the second round. I
would like Creighton's pass to the second weekend if that was the case.
Yes.
I very much would. So, here's where we're at. Halfway through the conference season for both. Obviously, a ton to be figured out still.
On the floor.
Yeah, they'll do it on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
They'll figure it out. That's the good part about how Creighton's schedule worked out for them. They got beat up early. They took that. What ended up is going to end up maybe being a bad loss at home to Villanova.
learn about your team, retool against the lesser teams in the conference.
And Marquette comes here,
mm-hmm.
and UConn comes here,
mm-hmm.
and that's all in the final 4 games. I think it will come down to that stretch. Like it will come down to the Big East championship will be decided. It'll move somewhere in the range of February 20th to March 9th when it ends. Like in those 2 weeks, Creighton plays UConn at home, St. John's on the road, Seton Hall at home, Marquette at home, and Villanova on the road. Those are all losable games.
Yeah,
Creighton could lose all those games. I don't think they will lose all of them, but I mean that's where it's decided. So they're still in the they're ramping up to that point.